Hello and welcome to another episode of the TC4RE Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alex, and today we are going to be speaking to two beautiful women about their journey within the tech industry. The reason we're doing this is we're celebrating International Women's Day, but not only for the day, we want to celebrate it for the month. So we've got a bunch of content which is going to be shared on LinkedIn that you'll be able to read on, and you'll be able to learn about a bunch of different roles that are being looked at or that people are doing within the tech sector, and you'll be able to learn a little bit about their journey. And these podcasts as well go a little bit deeper than that as well. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to really showcase those who are really excelling in the tech sector. So as I always say, grab a pen and a notepad and please enjoy the TC4RE Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the TC4RE Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Alex, and today we are joined by a new host. He's popping his cherry on the TC4RE Podcast. Ben, say hello to the people.
Hi, how is everyone doing today? My name's Ben. Nice to meet you all.
Oh, give a little bit about yourself. I'm going to do that awkward question. What's that one cool fact about you?
Cool. Crumbs, put me on the spot.
Cool. See, I made that difficult. I said cool, not interesting.
I'm a dad. I think that's the coolest thing about me. I have two children under 5. It's in fact my daughter's birthday today. She's 5 today.
Wow.
Happy birthday.
So,
Wow.
Yeah, the cool fact is I'm a dad to two beautiful children. That's my fact.
Amazing. Well, tell her happy birthday from me, and I'm sure happy birthday from everyone else on the call today. So today is going to be one of those unique episodes. We're going to be focusing on women maybe not on the day of recording, but around the day of recording. We have been celebrating International Women's Day in TC4RE. You'll be seeing that there's a bunch of different content that's been going out across the month, highlighting different amazing people from different organizations and different roles who are really accelerating and providing excellence in the tech sector. So yeah, please do check on the socials, really interact with that. And yeah, if you've got anyone that you know you want to raise up, this is probably a good time to do it. And with TC4RE, we've kind of taken on the vision of International Women's Day is not just a day. Let's extend that. Let's have that as a month. Let's really give a chance and an opportunity to celebrate the great women in our lives, because at the end of the day, everybody comes from a woman. That's the truth. So today we've got two great individuals. Instead of me doing an introduction, I'm actually going to allow them to do the introductions themselves. So we're going to go by Sil. Why don't you go first? Give an introduction about yourself, tell the people who you are, a little bit about you, and yeah, I'm sure they'll be excited to hear more about you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Ben. Thanks for having me. So I'm Priscilla Lewis, but known in the industry as Sil. Like Priscilla is only when I've been naughty. I've been in the industry 24 years, I'd say, about that time. But within SoftwareOne is 19 years, but 3 years because I was part of a buyout. So the previous company was bought by SoftwareOne. And I'm basically back office. So I deal with the vendors, I deal with contracts, commercials for the company and the vendor, and just help internally. So I'm inside sales and sales route to help if they need something. I'm almost like a scarecrow. So yes, thank you.
Oh. No, thanks, Sil. Could you share with everyone just your background as well, just so they're aware of that?
Yeah, as in...
background and heritage.
Okay, so half Jamaican, half Malaysian, and born and bred in London, and yes, worked mainly office jobs in London. So, yeah.
Cool, perfect. Thanks, Sil. And Bernadette as well. We'll let you go next.
Fab. Great to finally be on a podcast, Alex. Thanks for hosting today. I'm Ben. Lovely to meet you, Sil. I'm sure we'll spend much more time together as the future sort of unfolds for TC4RE. But I'm Bernadette Wilson. I'm one of the account directors at ResourceiT. So my job predominantly is to look after our customers here at ResourceiT. For anybody that's not quite sure who we are a boutique tech-only channel marketing agency. So we specialise in marketing solely with technology businesses, anything from going routes to market, planning, content creation and demand generation. We've sort of been around in the industry for over 20 years, helping businesses gain their routes to market. And I've been with the business for 2.5 years now. Previous to that, I did marketing for nearly 10 years at one of the distributors. So yeah, that's sort of me, all-round marketing for the IT channel. In terms of sort of my heritage, born and bred Southern girl, but my parents, my mum's family are British, and then my dad's family are Jamaican.
Wow, that's amazing. Just like the time in the industry, I'm just thinking about how long I've been in the industry. It's definitely minute in comparison to yours, Sil, and Bernadette, coming from a marketing background and being in tech and having all of that knowledge. That's really great. That is really fantastic. So focusing on International Women's Day, I just wanted to share some stats with you too, and just want to get feedback on what you feel about these stats, because women are still the minority in tech, sitting at around 19%. And when we break it down into Black and Hispanic and women, we're looking at even smaller. So we're looking at something that's 3%, and then Asian at 5%. Since you've both sort of had different tenures within the tech sector, do you feel like that's changing within your organizations, or do you feel like that number's sort of right where it's at the moment? Bernadette, I'll let you answer this one first, putting you on the spot.
No, that's fine. It definitely has changed. I can definitely see more people of colour, particularly women of colour, sort of as the years have gone on. It's definitely nowhere near where it should be or needs to be, particularly at board level. I think anyone, especially when I was sort of brand new into the industry, fresh out of uni, looking for work, I definitely wanted to be able to see women of colour on the board in leadership positions, having someone to sort of aspire and look up to. At the moment, it's great, like, to see women in general progressing, and I definitely do have tons of female role models, but they just don't look like me. So I think that's really the next step, is to try and elevate the great women that we have in the industry at the moment and get them up into those leadership positions. So when the next girls and coming out of school, they're coming out of uni and they're thinking, oh, could I work in tech? They can actually see career paths for themselves with women that look like them in anything from marketing to engineers to developers. We just need to increase that awareness and representativeness across the board, I think.
Yeah, I second that, because as a parent of 3 kids, 2 girls, I definitely want to see that more, because when they start to enter the world of work, that is my want for them, to be able to walk in and say, I could be the CEO, etc., of a company. And like yourself, Bernadette, starting out, I was the only person of colour in a company in the very beginning days. And I think at that time, I didn't really notice it, if that makes sense. It just was work. It just became, okay, this is it. I made my moves, done my thing. People were like, wow, you're brilliant, you know. And to me, there was never a, oh, I am different to you. It was like, and it was very male dominated as well. So that's when I started out. And then over the time, so now in the last 2 years, the influx of females, whether it be people of colour, coming into the workforce, especially at SoftwareOne, I'm always joyed. I'm like, yes, there's another female, because they could be that person that I see progress. Because it might not be myself, but I think I'm very happy where I am. But I do constantly encourage. I'm sort of like a untitled mentor, because I'm just like, do your best, push forward, go forward. But definitely on the board or the higher level management, I want to see more representation. But sometimes I always say, I say that, and then it's like, why have I not gone for it? So, but I know that's an internal thing for me, and I've got reasons like behind it. But yeah.
What would be those reasons behind it?
So at the moment, it's my kids. I want to allow them to not be as dependent on me as currently are, because the youngest is 7. So once he reaches secondary school, I think then I will refocus where I can look for, because I do think you have to commit. Like I commit to everything I do over and above, and as a woman, you naturally feel guilty for doing the pickup run. I shouldn't be guilty. I'm a mum. I'm picking up my kids, but I'm still working. I still do my full day work, and that's the beauty of IT as well, because we've got the laptops. It wasn't ever a case of, no, you can't do it. They were very flexible, said, yeah, you've got a laptop, crack on. So I left the office, went and collected the kids. So I had the best of both worlds and still have. So,
That's the same as me still, actually. I've got a 6 and a 3-year-old, both girls.
Yeah.
So pushing forward and trying to sort of do everything I can for them is really important. But definitely. I think I'm exactly the same as you. And I think I do look to that next level and think, they are little, they still require pickups and swimming lessons, and how do I fit that in being on a board somewhere, that extra level of commitment? And I think that is what holds a lot of women back. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's more acceptable socially and in the world of work for a woman to stop work for an hour to pick up the kids and then pick that up. I don't think we're quite there yet in terms of that being the norm for men as well. Right. So until that's sort of a truly equal childcare representation sort of situation, I think women always are naturally going to lean towards more, well, I'll do a role that will allow me that flexibility, whereas I think men don't take that into consideration as much.
Yeah, I guess, Ben, you can kind of chime in here, someone with children as well. With you working at Protivity and sort of having to have that work-life balance, was that something that you sort of considered when you first sort of went into the role?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, where I work, we are very much empowered to have that flexibility and collect the kids from school, etc. from that perspective. But again, from the male perspective, it is, I don't know if it's, in my head, I'm always thinking, should I be taking my time to go and get my kids and stuff like that? There is always that nag that I should be focusing on the work and stuff like that. But I've personally tried to make a very conscious effort to take that time out to go and look after the kids and support my wife in that capacity. So I guess for you ladies then, from that perspective, it sounds like the family side is still very much more sort of towards the female side in your eyes, and probably society's eyes as well from that perspective. Do you think that there's, going back to sort of the education piece and stuff like that, is it still with your daughters? Do they talk about wanting to go into doing technology and stuff like that? Do they see their mums in it and want to be in that space as well, or are they still too young to really understand what is actually out there at the moment?
So I'll take that first.
Yeah.
So I've got a 14-year-old who's 13. She'll be 14 next month. So she's in the mode of choosing her GCSEs, and I think from lockdown, she literally has been like, I don't want to do your job, just because I think she saw we were just sat at a computer, both mummy and daddy sat at the PC 24 hours a day, and she turned around and said, I do not want to do your job. So, but I think that's just of what she saw, and lockdown allowed a lot of families to really realize, wow, look at what you do, because normally it's outside of the home. You reconnect inside the home, you hear about the day, but you're not physically there. Whereas in lockdown, I saw my other half, how many calls he had. He saw how many calls I had, how many, urgent cases came through, etc. So for me, my rule, how I raise my kids is just get into something you enjoy, because when you have enjoyment, it doesn't feel like work. Because I get to talk to people, and that is, like Bernadette said, I love talking as well. I can stand in the kitchen and then I'll be like, oh, look at the time, I need to go and check my inbox. But part of me is because I get to meet people, I get to learn about people, and I have friends who travel the world. I'm not an avid traveler. I love holidays, but not as much. But just learning of their experiences, and then just, speaking to somebody else who's done that. And you kind of I gain my own insight and think, wow, I've just learned something that, I didn't have to leave the country to learn about and stuff. So yes, ideally, I would love it if my children come into IT, because there's some huge benefits, but it's just, like you said, the education in school, you have an IT lesson and it's once a week in their schedule, and it's about computers. It's not about the industry. It's not about what's out there. So it's for me, I think it's sort of like needs to start from school, but just, I don't know how to put it, have more opportunities available, because again, IT cannot be put in a box, because IT flows from every and anything. So yeah,
definitely. I think I'd agree with that. Sort of IT, when you say come and work in the IT channel, I think people need to, the education and awareness needs to be that it's not just sat in front of a computer. There's so many different types of roles. You can look at me, for example. I specialise in marketing, did a marketing degree, didn't necessarily think the IT channel would be where I would use that, but actually I love it. And it's things like software developers, HR, sales, like accounting. You've got the whole spectrum of job roles that can be done for the IT industry. So I think it's getting our name out there front and centre. But to come back to the question, my 6-year-old doesn't want to have a job at all.
Oh,
I think the same as yours, based off lockdown.
Aspirations.
Seeing mum and dad at our laptops. I was actually lucky enough to be on maternity leave the first part of lockdown, so that was fantastic. But once I'd returned to work for sort of lockdowns 2 and 3, she said, I want to live with you forever and not work, because you're on, all you do is email, call. But I think that comes back down to the fact that I am a Black woman in technology, and I feel like I have to work that extra level harder. Like, I have seen colleagues progress and get promotions quicker. Definitely not where I am now at ResourceiT, but in previous roles, I've definitely felt that the need to be present, be at my laptop, be working those additional hours, and sort of making sure the kids have got enough childcare so I can really focus on work has been something I've felt I've needed to do to just keep up and just make sure that I'm getting the same opportunities and not being seen as too loud or too bubbly or too this or too that, as I can't help it. I'm a very happy person all the time.
This is it.
But it's just trying to make sure that that's being taken in the right way and to show your worth in your work, I think. So there's definitely an added layer of pressure there. But luckily where I am now in ResourceiT, we're super diverse and really, really passionate about inclusion, and sort of our founders were co-founders of the WIT network as well. So everything we do is really centralised around sort of women empowerment and sort of furthering women's education, no matter what background you're from. So very lucky to be where I am now.
Yeah, I think it's important that that the business is focusing on diversity. And you made an excellent point there about having to work harder, and that's a common theme, not just for women, but people from sort of underrepresented backgrounds within the tech industry. There's sort of this, I don't know if it's taboo or true. I've had various conversations about it on various podcasts, but there's always that feeling of we have to work twice as hard to get to where we want to. And if you've got more things that are not in your favor, then you have to work that little bit more harder, which kind of makes me think about the start of both of your journeys. I know you probably both entered the industry at different times, but it would have been a different climate, right? First of all, that percentage that we brought up at the beginning would have been even slimmer. And even the doors that would have been opened now and probably not or wasn't available at those times. So it was probably much more difficult to get those opportunities to actually express your abilities in the tech sector and show your value to the business. So I'm wondering, how did that start-off phase go? I think maybe Bernadette, I'm interested to hear about the step from doing a marketing degree, and then everyone sort of has that lull period of, what am I going to do? So I'd be keen to know how that was for you, and then how you got through that to where you are.
Yeah, it was interesting, actually. So when I was doing my marketing degree, we all applied for internships. I was meant to do a 4-year degree with a placement, but there was like 400, 500 of us on my course, and only 5 people out of the whole course managed to get a placement. I don't know whether there was a crazy intake that year or people just really looking for jobs, but I ended up just completing the 3 years without any work placement in the end, which did actually prove to be quite tricky when you're then trying to get into the world of work and figure out what industries to apply to work in. So I actually took myself off for 2 years and went travelling. So still, we definitely need to spend some more time together chatting about that. But yeah, I just sort of went travelling, gained life experiences instead. And then it was actually my best friend when I was in Las Vegas messaged me and said, right, it's time now. You're nearly 24, need to grow up and come home and get a job. So she was working in the IT channel. She worked at a distributor at the time, and she said, look, come on, let's sort your CV out. Let's actually use those skills, because I really think you could have a really good career here. So yeah, that was my route in. And I initially went into sales because even though I had a degree, I didn't have any experience, and trying to get a role just for university students in general, no matter what you're trying to get into, without sort of having that placement, having that work experience, is really hard. So I just started in sales, did that for a year or so, then decided that enough was enough, and I shut my laptop, walked down to the marketing director's office, banged on his door. He let me in, and I said, I've got a marketing degree. What do I need to do to get to work in your department? And he then, basically gave me work experience in sort of my lunch breaks, because I was in sales. I did sort of shift work, so late starts, early finishes and things. So on the time I wasn't at work, I was working in the marketing department until a job became available, basically. And then the rest is history.
Wow. So someone gave you that opener, like he allowed you to...
Yeah, it was... He paired me with one of the marketing managers that was actually from an ethnic background at the time. So she was sort of my unofficial mentor, sort of giving me little side projects, little emails to write, little things to get designed, and just gave me that sort of leg up. So when there was a job available, I could say, look at all these things I've been doing in my spare time. I'm your obvious choice.
Love that.
And that's how I really opened the door to getting into marketing, and I've stayed ever since.
Great.
That's a great story.
Thanks. Very tenacious of me, as I was described a few years ago by one of my colleagues.
Well, like you said, like sometimes you feel like you've got to make that little bit of extra effort to do that. I think that's true for everybody to an extent, but especially for individuals that have some level of diversity. Again, I'm the guy that ticks all the boxes of privilege and majority on these. So I'm always eager to try and understand and learn more about everyone else's experience and perspectives, because I just cannot relate to most of them at all. I've never had to think about those sort of situations. I mean, Priscilla, what was it like for you starting out in the industry? How did you start?
So I was 20, and I literally finished. I wasn't not very good at education. Education wasn't right for me. It didn't suit me. So I think I done sixth form, and then I was like, I need to work. So I was the girl that had every job: Sainsbury's, Woolworths. This is going back in the day. Boots. I'd done all of those retail. I was like, hi. And so when I got my first job, literally it was like a call center. We were just taking orders for the IT. I don't know if I can say the initial company, but so it was a group interview. You were enrolled in a group. So there was like 15 of us who were core, just went in. And then after our training session, we were live on the floor, they used to call it, and literally just picking up, taking people's orders via the phone, had your headset on, tapping in. And then I think after a year within that, I could see, and again, in the company I was with, there was a lot of females, but I think it didn't equate to the figures today, if that makes sense. So in one place I saw females, but it might not have represented across the stats that you see now. And so I then moved over to credit control, done a bit of that, had a taster of that, got bored. I was in an admin team, so I did move around. And then eventually I sat within like licensing. So I was placing orders for licensing. And for me, it was just, I need change. Like my everyday cannot be the same sort of thing, because otherwise it gets mundane and I'm just like, I'm bored. And at that time, I remember it like it happened yesterday. I was sat at my desk just doing my normal run as you do, and I got a phone call on my mobile that I was like, who's this? And it was somebody, again, I was headhunted as such, and they were like, I want you to come start this, do it, run it yourself. And at 24, I was like, is this a prank? Did not know anything. I was like, I don't know anything. They're like, you'll learn, don't worry. And they basically had seen how I'd been around the company we was at together. And yeah, I think at 24, I had less fear. I just said, fine, handed in my notice. And, as IT, back then it was the walk the floor. Like when you leave, they walk you out the building, like your manager. So literally I was like, okay, bye everyone. And to me, I was like, oh gosh, like I had to walk the floor. And just...
Did you not weren't noticed then? They just walk you out?
No, they walk you out. Just thank you very much for your time. See you later. And you had garden leave. So, at 24, I was like, I'm off for a month, full pay. So, for me, it's really... I just want, so for me, to start that whole, the role, I walked into no guidance, just on my own. And it was just males. So I was like, oh, great. But again, 24, I was like, oh, here I am. Let me just crack on. And I fell in love with the fact that I had autonomy. I could be my own boss, as that such. The company had their guidances, but it was up to me how it was delivered and stuff. And I took it from that and just enjoyed everything I'd done. And after that, I've stayed in that company since. There was nothing. I then part of the buyout. So my role has changed every time, and every day is different. So, sorry, looping back to the question. It's just gaining. I've kind of gained loads of experience along the way and just used that. And I'm trying to push that experience or the things I've learned. Like Bernadette said, she had a mentor. I'm trying to self-mentor the people that are walking through the door to allow them to move forward. So, yeah.
Wow, that's some interesting starters from the two of you. Definitely sounds like there's that one or two people at the beginning of your journey that have just snowballed the rest of it. And I think it's very much that it's not definitely what you know, it's who you know from that perspective and being connected. So having that representation is definitely a big thing. I can see that. Again, wouldn't really understand that side of things. I mean, so from an education perspective, and for the workplace now, for people like me and Alex, as the males in this conversation, is there anything we should be doing more of to make sure that everyone is treated equally? Like, it sounds like a weird question, but from your experiences and within the workplace and working around males, how can we be better allies to you to help empower you to be the best woman you can possibly be in the workplace? Because that's something I struggle with quite often, is because I don't know how often I should be promoting something more, because then am I not promoting other people? And so I always feel like it's a balancing game in my head. But generally, from your experiences, what do you feel should be sort of the behavior of males to the females in the workplace to get the best out of everyone?
I think just championing them more. I think sometimes women can feel like they do so much work, especially women from an ethnic background. They just feel like they're working, and sometimes feel like just that allyship and championing them across the business. Sort of, if you feel like they've had a great idea or they've come up with a great program or service, or they've gone above and beyond somewhere, just recognizing that, I think, really helps. Just boosts morale in general and makes people feel valued. So I think a lot of the barrier to sort of women sort of pushing forward is that they don't feel like they're seen or heard. So just championing what they're doing, making sure that if you do see someone that doesn't look like you do a fantastic job, that you're sort of telling others about it, and just making sure that they feel like they're getting the recognition they need to feel empowered to then like push on, I think is key for me anyway.
And communication as well in the workplace. Like, don't be shy to, like, I think it's more, because just thinking of the workplace I currently work, we are low on female salespeople. Like Alex can say, there's a handful, if that. The rest, it's male dominated, and it's just like, why? Because women are just as good sellers as men, you know. Like, and I think the route into sales probably comes from a want to be a seller as well. So it has to come from that person. But like you said, just the champion of them and just saying, look, how can I help you? Are you stuck? And it's almost doing like a self-mentor without realizing, just saying, look, I'll take you under my wing, or what can I do to enable you to push yourself? Because I think you then receive as well. You receive something that you might not have realized, you know, they could teach you, vice versa. So, yeah.
And I think that communication piece is really key to getting more women in general, especially from an ethnic background, into the IT industry. Like if we did take sales, for example, I think there's so many different ways to sell. And I think sort of the stereotypical view of a salesperson and a sales floor is that macho, bravado, sort of I'm going to sell more than you, competitive vibe. And it's just about the way that we communicate that that's not actually the case.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways and so many techniques to being a great salesperson that not only do women have the skills naturally, but they can also be taught as well. So I think it's about making sure that people understand that no matter what the role they want to come into in the industry, you don't have to know it all to get started. You can literally turn up day one not knowing a single thing and know that the channel and the business you're going to work for are going to support you and train you and enable you to achieve whatever you want really within the role that you're choosing to pursue. So I think that education and communication piece is really key, not only for women that are already in the channel, but ones that want to get into it, or we could raise awareness and gain additional great females that way as well.
Yeah, exactly. And both of those answers are superb, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are really going to benefit from hearing that. And Ben, I thought that was a great question as well, asking about how we as men can do better, because there's always room for improvement for us to support, whether that be those from an ethnic background or those who are women from an ethnic background as well. So it pains me because production in the background said we have to stop at this time, so we haven't actually got any more time for any more questions. I really wanted to sort of have a deep dive in some of those topics and with both of you, but with the time that we've had, I've really appreciated what you've shared with us and shared with the listeners. So yeah, thank you, Sil, and thank you, Bernadette, for joining us.
Maybe we'll do part two.
Yeah,
maybe we can look to do a part two. I think that would be really interesting, not just for me, but for everyone else as well. And yeah, Ben, I think great, fantastic. How did it feel? Was it good, easy, duck to water?
I'm glad the first one's over. We've done this one. I can move on with a bit more confidence now. No, it was a great job, honestly, a great job. So yeah, for everyone else who's been listening, thank you very much. You can catch us on social. So like I said before, we're focusing on International Women's Day, not just for the day, but for the month. So please check LinkedIn for all of our posts and check our Twitter as well. If you want to listen to the TCare podcast, you can go directly on the website. That'll take you to various links to all of our episodes. You can also get us on Spotify, and you can also listen to us on YouTube as well. But for now, that's all we have time for. So thank you for listening to the TCare podcast, and looking forward to having you join us on the next one. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts. So please continue the dialogue on socials. To stay updated on when we release the next episode, follow us on LinkedIn and on Twitter at TC4RE. And don't forget to check our website at www.tcare.org for more information and content on today's topics.